Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast that releases once a decade.
Not once a decade.
Once as needed. The Bible released once. We've been using it ever since. So, welcome to A Product of Proverbs. This is your host, Joshua Fowler, joined by your host,
Roy Fowler.
And we're here to share our life lessons and wisdom that we've gained from this journey using the book of Proverbs as a North Star, but also using what we've gone through in real life as the actual footsteps in the sand that you can follow to reach the promised land. So we're going to get ready and kick off.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Okay, that's actually a perfect transition. We're about to get to debunking sayings because that's the first one. If you ain't first, you're last. What is that?
That ain't nothing because you can be next, second, however you want to look at it, third, somewhere down the line.
And we quote that from Talladega Nights all the time, but there's a follow-up scene in which his dad comes back. He says, "What do you mean, Ricky?" He said, "I was drunk, Ricky. You can be second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. You can be seventh. You can be anything." There's another saying, debunk. What's our other saying, Leroy?
The way you do anything is the way you do everything.
No, it's not.
That is not true.
You can do something better than you do something else. You can give more effort in one thing and give less effort in another thing.
Exactly.
Who came up with that saying?
I don't know who came up with that. I just heard y'all saying it.
What's the other saying? My favorite one is perception is reality.
No, it's not. Perception is not reality.
How did they get away with saying one word is another word and not the word it is?
Because, see, a lot of times people say things with so much confidence and you just feel like it's right because, the way they say it seem like it's right. But yeah, I heard y'all say that. And I said, well, no, it's not. The way you do anything is the way you do everything is not true.
I got to file a yo fault claim on that one. That's all Daniel. Daniel has been saying that for years. I don't know who told him that. That's the only person I've ever heard say that, and I've been quoting it religiously, and it's just been as wrong as can be.
He probably got it from one of those coaches. I'm sure that's where it came from.
So coach is just lying.
I guess to get them to work hard in every area they wanted them to.
Not lying to him, but I guess whatever motivates and motivates. Maybe that's a good transition into one of the topics. Speaking of coaches and wanting people to do the right thing and maybe step up in areas that they want to cut corners in, think about your motivation for things and think about the effort you give and the level of effort and how the level of effort should and usually relates to the quality of outcome. But then other times you have a high level of effort, but you don't really get the same outcome that you expect. What would be some advice to give to people when you think about do your best at all times, do your best whenever you can, as opposed to people that might save some energy or people that might cut back or pull back because they don't want to give 1,000% knowing they're not going to get 10,000% back?
I don't know, because you don't always give all you've got to everything that you do, because you really are limited in your resources, right? You've got to decide a priority and what's important. And sometimes it takes the most effort and energy to arrive at those places. And I think a lot of times that's how it goes. But that's something you've got to determine in your own mind and in your own heart and your own life.
I wonder, because what's the point of doing it if you ain't going to give all you got or all you can? If you know you don't have the capacity to do stuff, why are you going to do it kinda? Or do it and give 1% when there's somebody else that could do it and give all? Would it be better if everybody gave their all to something they're passionate about, something they wanted to see improve or grow, and then, left the other stuff to people that could give their all to that?
I don't really know how, in what arena we're talking, because sometimes in life, and not just sometimes, but all the time, there's a whole. And the whole don't always make up the same amount of pieces, right? The same size pieces to that whole. And I think that's one way to look at it, because some things that you will do that won't take the effort to accomplish the outcome than other things will. Yeah.
And I think about time management and how people have so many things. It's funny, like you said, priorities. But I think it was maybe Pastor V in a Bible study. I listen to so much stuff. I don't know where everything comes from. But originally the word was priority. Priorities or multiple, or the plural form of priority wasn't even a thing before like the 20th century, because it was, what is the priority? What is the number one thing? And yeah, you can have a bunch of number ones and a bunch of number twos, but realistically, there's only one number one priority. So then time management says that you list out your priorities, and you know that number one must get done, and you have to plug. You have effort, you have time, you have like the capacity, but then you have what needs to be done, and you have to be pretty intentional about making those all come together, making those work together. Or you just keep kind of floating around. Remember, like you said the other day about the to-do list. You make a list of what you need to do, and then you kind of track your progress on it. Or if you don't have a to-do list, then you might miss out on something that you said was a priority, but then got busy working on lower priority things and missed out on the high priority item.
Yeah, I think you have to decide what's priority, and if we're not careful, we can make the wrong thing priority. I think in the beginning it was probably survival, and you did what you had to do to survive. But I think as time has gone, where we've gotten more creature comforts and more time, more money, then there's a whole lot more things that creep into that, that takes up those spaces. And now you got to decide and think. I wonder how much of the things we place priority on are really priority. I think that's where I've come to in these years I've been living. I realized that most things that I felt was so important early on, as I get older, they lose that place of importance, and they're changed with other things. So I think that's a place that you grow into. But what has happened with people now, because you have so much so early, that you're bombarded with a lot of opportunities and different things that you can navigate that you didn't have in past years, past economies, and just the past days. I think that's one of the things now, because I think even as a young person, as a kid and as a young adult, didn't have nearly the things in my face like I see the young people with today.
But then you got to think about what all is actually available to you, what all is reasonably or realistically accessible, what's in your face versus what you can see on a screen, whether it be TV or movie or cell phone or social media, versus what really happens. Like, I think about the fact that Mom was telling me that Autry Middle School has a programming and computer class now. They have a computer lab where kids are learning to code and program, but Bill Gates had that available to him when he was in middle school. So you can say, I get on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and I see kids have companies where they're coding and kids are making their own things, and even young adults are making all this money from computer science. But in reality, you didn't have access to a computer powerful enough, or internet, or a teacher, or all of the resources to actually learn to program until that lab opened up in 2024 at your school. So what's the balance between what's really available and what seems like it's available?
Well, I think, too, that everything is not available to everybody. And that's just the reality. And even if it was, everybody don't have the gift or the capacity to do everything. You just can't do anything you want to do. That's another one. You just can't be anything you want to be. You have limitations. Some people are really smart in math. Some people arts. Some people different things. Everybody have different talents and gifts and abilities. And those are the things we really need to focus in on. One of the things we probably need to do with our young people, help them to focus and maximize their giftedness. And I think when you mention media and all this open up, people see all this stuff and they say that can be them, but really it can't be them. Everybody can't be a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. You can't. And that's just the reality of life. We're not built with, we're equal in the fact that we're all human, but you have geniuses, and then you have people that, can barely navigate. But that's just the way it is. It's not by any choice of your own. Some people have real high IQs. Some people don't.
What you want to call them, Leroy?
I'm not calling them nothing.
What you want to call them, Leroy?
I just said what they are. They just don't have the capacity that others have.
What's some of the other sayings that they used to say? They used to say they're not the brightest crayon in the box.
Yeah, they're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I don't know if I can say that in this day and age.
Their elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor.
They're a knife, just not a steak knife. They might be a butter knife.
They cut something.
Yeah.
Man, you can say whatever, because I was thinking about that, and that's something I've learned. Yeah, you can be canceled. You can always be canceled. Anyone can be canceled. But realistically, how cancelable are most people? And what cancellations really, really stick and have that type of power? What mob of people are going to go and make something happen against you? Why do they have the free time and resources to do that to you as one person? One of I think the youth pastor at the church was like, everyone's like, I got haters, I got ops. They don't know you. They don't know you. They're not thinking about you. I think about, because I haven't been on social media in a while, and it's like, who would be hating on you if you was on social media? And who's hating on you with you not being on social media? The same amount of people. They weren't hating on you then, they're not hating on you now. They don't think about you. Who's the hater in life, and what can they do to actually impact you if you don't think about, acknowledge, talk to, or give them any power?
And that's something that we as regular people, you hear that all the time. We all have haters. And what? What does that even mean? People don't like you? I mean, what does it mean? What are they going to do? I mean, how is it going to affect you anyway? It's not. One of the things I've come to learn is we give people too much power in our lives. They shouldn't have that kind of power over us. And you'll find that you spend a lot of energy and effort to be in an environment of popularity and to be liked. And at the end of the day, the people that like you, gonna like you. And the people that don't, they're not.
There is nothing you can do to make somebody magically like you that don't like you for no reason.
Right.
If they don't like you for no reason, there's no reason you can give them to like you. And that's interesting that you brought up power and popularity, because I think about power, and I think a lot of times is people that live with so many things having power over them seek power over other things. So if you live and this has power over you, at any chance you can to have some power, you do that. So you're going to, in a very minor scale thing, try to find some power when it's really not a power dynamic in the first place. The church don't have power over you. Your family, your job doesn't have power over you. You see it that way. If you can escape looking at life from a power dynamic perspective, then power dynamics aren't as negative or impactful or abrasive to you, because they don't really exist. It's just kind of the transfer of energy. Some people have more energy to give to something than others. You cared more. You just care more in that instance. It don't mean that you're more powerful to them. You just cared more to do something. And in the grand scheme, now imagine you want to care about things that matter. Care more about things that matter more long term and less about things that don't matter 10 minutes after it happened. But you got to get out of power mind for that. I wonder what puts people in power mind, because the dynamic is always there if you want to subscribe to it. But what makes you subscribe to it and not just kind of whatever it? What makes you really go hard for it?
I don't know, because
You never subscribed to it?
I never dealt with, I felt like that. I understand that different people have different positions, and there's a level of authority that's just naturally in the scheme of life and in society. And there's nothing bad or, you're not less than or worse than because you don't have that place of authority. I think that's what it is. We've come to feel inferior in a lot of areas. I think that's the problem. People don't have, they have no self-esteem.
I think that comes back to that access to, and thinking you have access to all of these things that you should do, should have, and then you don't have them. Well, you shouldn't have them. I mean, that's, I forgot which therapist said it, but should isn't a reality word. Should doesn't exist. What you say should happen, how someone should have acted, what you should have received or should have done, never actually exist. It never existed. It will never exist. It's like that's a fictional fantasy world word. And so if you think about it like that, you probably can't throw too many shoulds on things and then get hurt when it don't happen, because who ever said that was going to happen?
But you do. And the reason you do is because of perception. Perception becomes your reality. But it's not real.
But it can be.
It affects you in a way
Like
that
it's real.
reality would. And if you can ever break through that, like you said, the should, if you can ever understand that that's just perception, that's not reality. You know, most people get angry, get their feelings hurt, or misunderstand, or get misunderstood based on perception, but that becomes their reality because emotionally it affects them the same way.
Why can't they engage with reality more and dwell in their perception less? Because if someone says something to hurt your feelings, reality could be that they didn't mean it that way. Reality could be they didn't even say that. You heard that they said that from somebody that's told you what they heard them say. If you engage with reality, you go ask them, you say, you address it. Hey, I heard this. Did you say this? Yes, no. Oh, if so, it hurt my feelings. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it in that way. Or, yeah, it hurt your feelings good. That's what I wanted to do. And then you move on with it.
And that's reality.
That's reality. That's how you live in and with reality. But what most people do is they just dwell in perception and never get a truth.
It's easier.
Yeah, I guess most people do the easier things.
It's easier to do that than to face the truth and be willing to. It takes courage. And some people see that as being inferior to, like, I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to ask them that. Like, it's a bad thing, but it's the right thing to get understanding. And all you get understanding. That's how you get it. Most things are misunderstandings. Somebody don't speak to you. Maybe their mind was on something else. That happens all the time. On Sunday, just an example, on Sunday morning, I don't really like to engage with anybody because my mind is on something else. So I'm trying to focus that in. So I'm tunnel vision. And people don't understand that. But they won't ask. They'll just say, he's arrogant, he's antisocial, or he's mean, or whatever. Or he's not personable. But that's not the case. But most people won't ask.
Why do people always have to say? That's the thing that stood out to me was they'll say he's arrogant, they'll say he's... Why everybody... Say less. Remember I said it the other day, just like, say less is more than a saying. Just say less about people. Say less to people on things that don't matter. Just like we say, and I keep hearing a lot of say, they said, this person said, they usually say, they're gonna say, this person said, they took... A lot of talking about nothing that goes on.
Well, the Bible said be slow to speak and quick to listen.
I'll say that's something that also stood out from this trip back home, since I've been out in Austin for a while, and then also been out there by myself for a while, is noticing the difference between just kind of a lot of human interaction when you just have a lot of touch points. You're on the phone with this, you're going out with this, you're at church with this group of people, you're dinner at this, you're CEO with these people, doing this with these people, doing that with these people. It's a lot more touch points for talking, a lot more touch points for misunderstanding, versus when you do live a little bit more introverted or just kind of by yourself in some engagements, but you engage with things and then go back into your own bubble. All of those things are probably still happening. You're just not really aware of it. You don't think about it. And I think that's one of the topics that I put down was awareness. So awareness was not only like internal and self-awareness, but external awareness and being aware of your environment, being aware of your surrounding, being aware of people around you, and trying to be aware of intentions. Because I also put observation with that awareness topic, because you have to like observe and watch people and notice patterns and watch your environment and see how things change, see what grows, see what dies, see how things move, and once you do that, I think you'll be in a much, much better place to engage with people, approach life, and conquer situations and roadblocks that come into your life. But I think a lot of people live without that level of intentional awareness to examine your thoughts, examine your motives, like examine your whys, examine even your whats. Like think about what actually happened. What happened last week? What was the highlight of last month? What was 2023 like? Everything's a blur because we're not really observing and aware and downloading and doing like retrospectives and looking and saying, okay, what was the lesson from this? What did I actually experience? What was my intention going into it? Did it meet it? How did that affect my intentions or similar or next experiences that I'll go through? Like, do you see that? Or is that me, my own world, being hyper aware or observational? But in the grand scheme with everybody interacting and everything, people are observant of things going on and people are aware and intentional about that.
Do I see that? I think I see where people, if they are observational, if they are trying to be aware of the situation or whatever, what happens, we bring our own filters to that. And we put everything we see through the filter of our own imagination and our own minds. And that's why sometimes people that are negative or critical or not trusting, so whenever they see something, they see it through those filters instead of a clear, unbiased filter. So they see it through bias. And that's what happens a lot of times. And you see that all the time because we're in this situation, and they'll see the same thing I'm seeing, but they'll come back with a whole bunch of negativity around it. And I'm saying, I didn't see that. Or you're just too naive. You always give people the benefit of the doubt. Well, I'm not looking for anything. And I think a lot of times we go in looking for something. And this old gentleman I used to work with when I was a young person, he was an older gentleman. He used to always say, if you look for something, you'll find it. And that's what they're looking for it. So the truth is, that's probably not what you find, but that's what you make it to be. And you can make it to be anything you want to in your mind, right?
That's your perception.
That's your perception. I like that. I'm glad you told me that.
Perception and reality.
Yeah.
I try to live in reality as much as possible. I think that's why I also like to examine those whys and intentions, because other people are doing things in reality and that's not what they perceive. People are thinking and talking and acting and moving, and they perceive that maybe they're doing it in a good way, or they're doing it for a good reason, or they're doing it, and you ask someone, why do you do that? I don't know. Why is it like that? I don't know, it just is. Or
the why is important.
Mm-hmm.
The why is so important. And if we would ask why, and that's any question, I mean, like any thing, like, why did I feel that way? Why did I do it that way? Why? And so we got to be willing to ask those questions, and then we've got to be honest with it. That's one of the keys too. You got to be honest with yourself.
So I got a list of topics here actually under the topic of why. So we can actually run through some of those with the first one starting now. And you said it, authenticity. You have to be honest. You have to be real. I think that jumping back to our cancel conversation is a lot of times and somehow we let the fake I'm going to get canceled stop us from being your true self. Just thinking about anything, thinking about how you act, how you behave, how you speak, what you wear, where you go, how you move, how you take care of your life, how you live your life. Sometimes I think people do for approval or to avoid punishment rather than do for what they want to do, or even being intentional thinking about why do you want to do that? Do you want to do that? Or is that something else or someone else or some programming that made you think like that or made you have that on your list? When you think of whys and honesty and authenticity, how does that blend? Because at the end of the day, some of that why that's your authentic why is something that was programmed.
Yeah.
So it's authentic, but it's programmed, and then some of it is programmed, and you'll analyze it and say, well, I don't agree with that, and you'll drop that. Where's the balance of programmed wise versus my own, what I picked up and added to it myself?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it really goes deep. As you said, some of it's programming and life lived, and you can't get around that, but you've got to be willing to reach beyond that. And when you do, it's work. I think it's work, and people like to take the easy route to most things.
I like to believe that easy route people ain't listening to my podcast. And if you are an easy route person, I sympathize with you. I define the right word. I sympathize with you. And I think that you don't have to always be on the easy route. You don't always have to be an easy route person. How you do everything isn't how you do anything. So you can be an easy route person and something can switch and then you say, I'm going to do hard things. I'm going to do the work.
Yeah, that happens, and it should happen. The light should go off, and we decide we're going to do something different because we're tired of getting what we're getting. And if you keep doing what you're doing and you're getting what you get and you're not happy, eventually something's got to click, and you got to do something different. Nothing ever happens or grows without effort. And when you see people that never grow in whatever area you want to address, any area, that's because they're not willing to put the work in. And it's not going to be easy, but it's always worth it because you're going to grow from it. Nothing ever happened by taking the easy route, except low life living.
Yeah, I think what motivates people to not do easy things anymore, what motivates people to kind of level up, and what motivates people to, even if you don't have another level to go to, just keep going, because sometimes it's not always about a climb. Sometimes it's just maintaining. Sometimes it's just keep going. So I think regret is one of those powerful motivators. Regret is, you should be motivated by, I think we were talking about this the other night, is when you say, I want to do the best, it's because I want to do my best. I want to do the best. I want the outcome of the best. I want to know that I gave my all. And I'm like, I want to do the best because I don't want to fail. And if I fail and I failed and say I did my best, then I'll be okay with that. But if I fail and knew I didn't give my best, then you'll have regret.
Yeah.
So it's like regret sometimes to some people don't exist. I think that's back to that optimism versus the people that say these are the negatives in it. I think that regret is one of the more powerful motivators for me. And there was a book. I hope I don't misquote the author. Good thing y'all have Google, so I know the title is right. But it's The Power of Regret by Daniel H. Pink, I believe. And that was a book that kind of deep dove into that. So I think keeping down on those whys, if it's not going to be regret, sometimes it is influence. So knowing that we're all influenced by things, the programming, or also just help. Not thinking of negative influence, but positive influences that happen in your life. You have mentors, you have leaders in life. Leaders and leadership, I think, is different from mentorship because that just happens. Someone around is leading, and they may not speak to you, but they lead you.
Mm-hmm.
A mentor is actually a touch point or a relationship that goes alongside leadership. So I think that you've been, and I know you've been, and currently are both, two people. And I know that most of the people that listen to this podcast, I'd assume, and I hate making assumptions, but I think about target audience. I hope and think these are people that are on the other side of mentorship and leadership that maybe can benefit from hearing from your side. So if you have any wisdom or advice or just tips or your experience to speak on being a mentor to others, how mentorship improves their lives when you had mentors and when you were mentored by others, how that helped your life. And then the same for leadership. I think we can dive into that afterwards because I think that isn't as a product of Proverbs as the mentorship aspect.
Yeah, when you talk about mentors and those, they do touch your life and they walk with you. And I've had many of those type of people in my life. And since we're going to talk about leaders later, a mentor is one that he puts more, I guess, intentionality to you and helping you to walk in a certain way because he puts more effort and it's more personal. Um, and that is the difference. That is one difference in being a mentor and just being a leader. Because I've had both of them, as you said. I've had leaders that I looked up to and I watched them and I could model them. But those mentors are ones that teach you. And I've had so much of that. One in particular, I always mention Uncle Ghana, who was my father's brother. And he would take time out to come and help me to do things. I remember when I got my first car and I wanted to learn how to work on it. He would always help me with it. At first, I don't know if I told you, but I was telling somebody. At first, he would come and he would do what needed to be done. But he would take the time to do that. I could go up there and he could be doing anything, but he would always do that. And then after that, he would not do it for me, but he would show me how to do it. And he'd take time to do that. And I never forget, I had a situation where I think it was a tie rod that was coming loose. My stern was getting loose and I didn't know what it was. And he said, he came and looked at it and he told me what it was and told me what I need to get. And then he told me, you can do it. He said, you do it. He told me what to do and he said, no, you do it. He didn't even come down to watch me do it. But that was just one thing, but that was many. Not only did he help me and mentor me there, but also in the church. I never forget, he came down one day and spoke to my dad and said, I want Roy to come to Sunday school because he don't come to Sunday school. Do you mind if I bring him to Sunday school? Dad said, no, you can bring him. And he asked me, he said, why don't you come? I said, won't nobody get me up? He said, okay. What time you going to get up? And every Sunday he would come down there at that time and get me up. He'd leave his house, come down to my house to make sure I was up. I had a mom and a dad in the house. But he did that until he walked with me in that until I could walk on my own. And I remember that time I told him, I said, Uncle, you don't have to come and wake me up anymore. I'll be there. And the rest of it is history. He taught me in the Sunday school, different areas of serving in it. He taught me all the way up. He saw me from there to becoming pastor of the church.
Man.
Yeah.
That's cool because that was the one person that was around to see the whole thing.
Whole transition.
Everybody else was around for it, but they didn't observe it. They wasn't kind of there walking with it the whole way.
Yeah, he was there the whole way, the whole time.
Man.
But he was one that always would stand out as a powerful mentor in my life. Not only for living in the natural things, he always taught about money, saving, paying yourself, giving to the church. He always was big into that. He'd teach you those things. And it's funny because there's a lot of men, like even older than me, that talk about how he taught them how to handle money and how to save money. And I'm sure he tried to teach them the same things he taught me because that's just how he was.
Mm-hmm.
But he was one. But yeah, so that's how you want to be. And that's you. It's paying it forward. Where people have poured into your life and you see the benefits of that, then you just, pour it into other lives. Give them a chance. We got to give people a chance.
That's what I like about mentorship is usually somebody's a leader when they choose to be a mentor. Is they've become a leader, and I think both of those are things that you are and you do, and you don't seek to do it. Mm-hmm. Someone that's like, I want to be a leader, I want to lead people. that if you want to, that means you're not. That's what you want to be. That's what you want to do. That means you're not doing it. I want to mentor people. I think he just did it. Like he said, he was your mentor, but he was a mentor to all the others that he was teaching as well. If someone's a teacher, someone's a leader, you naturally do these things. So that would be a challenge or a call to the audience is, where are you a leader at? Where are you mentoring people at? Where do people come and ask you for advice? You think about, it's more than a question on a dating app, because that's one of the questions on the profiles is like, my friends ask for me advice on. It's like, well, no, what do people see you as a leader in? What do people trust your judgment in? It's like that's something that you can see, and then you can take that gift. Hey, I noticed that people usually ask me about this. I'm gifted in this. I have a reputation of being stronger in this than others are. Be intentional about sharing that with others. Be intentional about when people ask you how you do this enough times, be proactive. Hey, I know how to do this. Let me teach people how to do this. So that's a good pro and a good call to action for you as a listener is find a way to take lessons here and apply them to your own life. And mentorship is one that you can then pay it forward. Be prolific. Produce many seeds. Produce many fruits. And because you plant the seed and the tree that you get shade from, the person that planted that seed ain't been here for 2 generations, but you get shade from the tree. So, and you even cut the tree down, and they planted that seed and watered it for hundreds of years, and you cut it down because you want to put a garden.
Yeah,
you want to put a
whatever.
garden up that you saw on Instagram, ain't gonna take care of for 3 weeks, and ruining folks' good tree for generations for your little hobby that you gonna throw away. See, that's me being pessimistic. You gonna do that garden and you gonna grow your stuff.
Do that.
Yeah, grow them.
You was talking about motivation and regret. Regret can be a good motivation, but sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it keeps you going down the path of destruction.
Like vengeance.
Vengeance are either hopelessness, say regret because of what hasn't happened, and you just lose the fire or the willingness to keep moving, and you just give up. Everybody don't move forward from regret.
Yeah, you don't see it as an opportunity to change the outcome moving forward because I can do something to not have to feel that regret anymore. You see it as, I can't do anything to solve that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether if you forward thinking or past
And that's
thinking.
the thing. See, some people hang on to the past, And I say that all the time. You can't live, even Matthew say that now. He don't spend a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror because you can't really go forward looking backward.
You can't go backwards anyways because, you got to make a U-turn. You have to turn off course. It's not like you can just stop, put in reverse, and go backwards if you see something. You're going to have to go so far out your way to go backwards. And then if you thought you saw something in the rear view, that could have been your perception. You could have went all the way off course to go do something from the past, fix something from the past, and it's just how you perceived it. That trauma stuck to you in that way. It made you see a situation in a way that it wasn't. You go back to rectify it, and it wasn't even like that. And now you done wasted all that time and all that energy. Just keep moving forward, basically.
And that's the key. Keep moving forward.
Looking at the list of our why, we got through most of it. Humility, that's natural. You can't. I don't think you can teach humility. I think life has to teach you humility. You can tell someone be humble. You can tell someone don't think too highly of yourself. You can tell them all the things.
And if one thing about it, life is going to teach them that.
Yeah.
Life is going to take you to that place,
Yeah. Let's see.